Claims about political misconduct, corruption, and questionable activities have often been linked to former United States Secretary of State, former Senator, and former First Lady Hillary Rodham Clinton. Over the years, numerous accusations and controversies have surrounded her public career. These discussions range from debates about her political decisions to various allegations involving associates, financial dealings, and the activities connected to the nonprofit Clinton Foundation. For decades, these topics have been widely discussed in media, politics, and public debate. Supporters view many of these claims as politically motivated, while critics argue that they deserve deeper scrutiny. Regardless of perspective, the Clinton name has remained at the center of American political controversy for many years. In this episode, we take a closer look at Hillary Clinton. Who is she? What events shaped the beginning of her career? What controversies have followed her through decades of public life? And who were the allies and institutions that supported or defended her along the way? Hello, I'm Colin Heaton, a former history professor and a veteran of the United States Army and Marine Corps, and welcome to another episode of Forgotten History. Hillary Rodham Clinton was born on October 26, 1947, in Chicago, Illinois. She attended Maine East High School and later Maine South High School before enrolling at Wellesley College. After completing her undergraduate studies, she continued her education at Yale University, where she later graduated from Yale Law School. Early in her career, Hillary worked as a staff attorney for Marion Wright Edelman's newly established Children's Defense Fund in Cambridge, Massachusetts. She also served as a consultant for the Carnegie Council on Children, focusing on issues related to child welfare and social policy. During the mid-1970s, she worked as a staff attorney for the U.S. House Judiciary Committee during the impeachment inquiry connected to the Watergate scandal, which ultimately produced draft articles of impeachment against President Richard Nixon. There have been differing accounts regarding the circumstances under which she left that position. Some reports suggest her work simply concluded after the inquiry ended, while others have presented alternative explanations. The exact details remain a matter of debate. Afterward, she moved to Arkansas, where she joined the faculty at the University of Arkansas School of Law, becoming one of the very few female faculty members at the institution at that time. One of her early legal cases involved representing a food processing company in a lawsuit filed by a man who claimed he had discovered a rodent fragment in a can of pork and beans produced by the company. In the end, the court ordered only minimal damages. During this period, Hillary Clinton also served as a public defender. In that role, she represented a man accused of assaulting a young girl. The case later became the subject of public debate when the victim, speaking many years later, criticized Clinton's defense strategy and accused her of attempting to undermine her credibility in court. As part of the legal proceedings, a plea agreement was eventually reached. The defendant received a reduced charge and was sentenced to a short jail term followed by probation. Audio recordings that surfaced years later captured Clinton discussing aspects of the case, including the use of a polygraph test during the defense. Critics pointed to the comments as controversial, while others noted that defense attorneys are ethically required to represent their clients to the best of their ability under the law. In October 1975, Hillary married Bill Clinton. In the years that followed, her professional career continued to grow. She became associated with the Rose Law Firm, where she later made history by becoming the firm's first female partner. Her legal work included representing Madison Guaranty, a savings and loan institution connected to the business activities of James McDougall and his wife Susan McDougall. The financial collapse of that institution later became part of the widely discussed Whitewater real estate controversy, in which both Bill and Hillary Clinton were mentioned during investigations. During Bill Clinton's 1992 presidential campaign, Hillary Clinton's work at the Rose Law Firm received significant public attention. Critics questioned whether the firm benefited from business connected to state government, while Bill Clinton served as governor of Arkansas. Years later, when the Clintons left the White House in 2001, Hillary Clinton stated that she and her husband were facing financial challenges despite their years in national politics. Despite earning millions of dollars over the years from speeches, book deals, and other ventures, the Clintons stated after leaving the White House that they were facing financial pressure. Around the same time, reports surfaced that several items, including furniture, cutlery, fine china, artwork, and other decorative pieces, had been taken from the White House and later returned. Estimates suggested the value of those items could have been close to $200,000. However, some fact-checking organizations and media outlets questioned that figure, arguing that the exact value remained unclear. Critics claim the items may have been removed improperly, while other reports suggested there may have been confusion about which belongings were personal gifts and which were considered government property associated with the White House. Another controversy that drew attention involved claims of possible family favoritism. A company connected to Hillary Clinton's brothers, Tony and Hugh Rodham, became associated with a government project involving the construction of a compressed natural gas fueling station in Shebregan, Afghanistan. The project received funding from a Pentagon program during the period when Hillary Clinton served as Secretary of State. Later reviews suggested the project cost tens of millions of dollars, although some analysts argued the facility could have been built for far less. These findings led to questions about oversight, particularly because the project was reportedly awarded without a competitive bidding process. The plan included converting vehicles to run on compressed natural gas, commonly known as CNG. Reports indicated that converting a vehicle could cost several $100s, a significant amount in a country where many people earn relatively modest annual incomes. The program funded the conversion of more than 100 vehicles, though observers noted there was little evidence that the broader public adopted the technology independently. Some analysts also questioned whether detailed feasibility studies had been conducted before the project moved forward. Afghanistan at the time lacked the infrastructure needed to widely distribute compressed natural gas, raising concerns about whether the project could realistically succeed. The initiative was managed through a Department of Defense program called the Task Force for Business and Stability Operations, rather than the State Department. Nevertheless, political commentators and critics questioned whether influential figures in Washington had any role in shaping the decision to fund the project. Subsequent reviews of the program concluded that it produced little measurable economic benefit. Critics described the effort as an example of costly government spending that may not have achieved its intended goals. Another major controversy connected to Hillary Clinton's tenure as Secretary of State involved the Benghazi attack in Libya, an incident that resulted in the deaths of 4 Americans, including a United States ambassador. The attack led to several congressional investigations examining security decisions and the government's response to the crisis. During those investigations, attention also turned to Clinton's use of a private email server installed at her residence in Chappaqua, New York. Critics argued that using a private server for official government communications could present security risks and potentially violate federal record-keeping guidelines. The matter eventually became the focus of federal investigation led by the Federal Bureau of Investigation under Director James Comey, with oversight from the Department of Justice under Attorney General Loretta Lynch. Investigators requested access to thousands of emails created during Clinton's time as Secretary of State. Clinton stated that she had separated personal messages from official government correspondence before providing the relevant emails to authorities. The investigation ultimately concluded that although the handling of certain information was described as extremely careless, prosecutors did not recommend criminal charges. The decision became one of the most debated political outcomes in recent American history, with critics arguing the investigation should have led to stronger consequences, while supporters said the evidence did not justify prosecution. The issue resurfaced again during the 2016 presidential campaign, when additional emails were discovered on a laptop belonging to Huma Abedin, a longtime Clinton aide. The laptop had been seized during a separate investigation involving her then-husband, former Congressman Anthony Weiner. When investigators reviewed the device, they discovered a large collection of emails, including many that appeared connected to Clinton's earlier email inquiry. As a result, the FBI briefly reopened its investigation shortly before the presidential election. The discovery intensified the political debate surrounding the email controversy, with supporters and critics offering sharply different interpretations of the findings and their significance. Supporters of Hillary Clinton have consistently rejected many of the accusations surrounding her use of a private email server. Critics, however, argued that the server allowed official communications to remain outside the standard federal record-keeping systems. According to those critics, such an arrangement could limit oversight and potentially place certain communications beyond the reach of Freedom of Information Act requests or congressional inquiries. The controversy surrounding the private server became a central political issue in the United States. Investigations attempted to determine whether any federal laws or security protocols have been violated during Clinton's time as Secretary of State. During the same period, the Clinton Foundation, a global charitable organization established by the Clinton family, received large donations from governments, corporations, and wealthy individuals around the world. Some political commentators question whether those contributions might have created potential conflict of interest, especially in cases where donors later benefited from diplomatic relationships or government policy decisions. Others argued that no direct evidence proved that donations influenced official actions, and they emphasized that the foundation supported numerous international humanitarian programs. One of the most widely debated issues during that time involved the approval of a business transaction related to Uranium One, a Canadian mining company with uranium assets in the United States. The deal required approval from several government agencies within a National Security Review Committee. Critics later claimed that donations connected to individuals linked with the company raised ethical concerns, while supporters noted that the decision was made by a multi-agency committee and not by any single official. Meanwhile, the FBI investigation into Clinton's email practices became one of the most closely watched political investigations in modern American history. The inquiry was overseen by FBI Director James Comey, working alongside officials from the Department of Justice. After reviewing thousands of emails and conducting interviews, Comey publicly stated that investigators found evidence that some classified information had been handled improperly. However, he also said the FBI did not recommend criminal charges, stating that investigators did not find clear evidence of intentional misconduct that would typically justify prosecution under existing legal standards. That conclusion sparked intense debate across the political spectrum. Critics argued the decision showed unequal treatment under the law, while supporters said the investigation demonstrated that the legal system had carefully evaluated the evidence. The issue resurfaced again during the 2016 presidential campaign, when additional emails were discovered on a laptop belonging to Huma Abedin, a longtime Clinton aide. The device had been seized during a separate investigation involving her then-husband, former Congressman Anthony Weiner. When investigators examined the laptop, they found a large number of emails that appeared potentially related to Clinton's earlier email inquiry. The discovery led the FBI to briefly reopen its investigation shortly before the election, intensifying an already heated political environment. At the same time, the 2016 election itself became the subject of numerous investigations and political controversies. Some officials and intelligence agencies raised concerns about potential foreign interference in the election process. Others argued that political narratives surrounding those claims were exaggerated or misrepresented. Several investigations were launched in the years that followed, including the Mueller investigation and later the Durham inquiry, both of which examined different aspects of the events surrounding the election, the Trump campaign, and the actions of government agencies. Supporters of Donald Trump argued that certain investigations into his campaign were politically motivated, while critics maintained that intelligence agencies were responding to legitimate national security concerns. The competing narratives became part of an ongoing political struggle that dominated American politics for several years. Media coverage of these issues also became a major point of debate. Some commentators accused major news organizations of bias in how they reported on Clinton, Trump, and the various investigations. Others argued that media outlets were simply reporting complex and rapidly developing political stories. The result was a deeply divided political environment, with different groups interpreting the same events in very different ways. For many Americans, the controversy surrounding Hillary Clinton, the 2016 election, and the investigations that followed became defining political debates of the modern era. Reports later revealed that Mark Elias, an attorney from the Seattle-based law firm Perkins Coie, played a role in funding opposition research related to Donald Trump during the 2016 presidential campaign. Elias worked alongside Robert Bauer, a former White House counsel, who was also connected to the firm and had long-standing ties with Democratic political circles. Financial disclosures later showed that between mid-2015 and the end of 2016, the law firm received millions of dollars in payments from the Democratic National Committee and the Clinton presidential campaign for legal services. Some of those funds were reportedly used to hire the research firm Fusion GPS. Fusion GPS later brought in a former British intelligence officer, Christopher Steele, who had previously worked on Russian affairs. Steele compiled a collection of reports based on sources and contacts, which later became widely known as the Steele dossier. The document contained a series of claims and allegations about Donald Trump and potential connections to Russia. Many of those claims quickly became the subject of intense political debate. Supporters of Trump argued that the dossier contained unverified or inaccurate information, while others viewed it as intelligence material that required further investigation. The dossier was eventually shared with members of the media and with federal investigators. Its existence added fuel to the already heated political environment surrounding the 2016 election. In the years that followed, several investigations examined the circumstances surrounding the dossier, the origins of the Russia investigation, and the broader political conflicts between the Trump campaign and various government agencies. These inquiries became part of a long-running debate about the role of intelligence agencies, political campaigns, and law enforcement in American elections. At the same time, critics of the Clinton family continue to question the activities of the Clinton Foundation, a charitable organization that had raised hundreds of millions of dollars globally. Supporters pointed to the foundation's humanitarian work, while critics argued that its fundraising activities deserved additional scrutiny. Public attention also increased after renewed discussions about documents related to Jeffrey Epstein and his network associates. Various political figures and institutions became the subject of speculation as investigators and journalists attempted to understand the broader scope of Epstein's connections. During this period, congressional committees explore a range of issues related to political oversight and compliance with subpoenas. Lawmakers discuss whether certain witnesses should testify under oath regarding past investigations and controversies. Debates about compliance with congressional subpoenas have occurred many times in American political history, sometimes resulting in legal disputes or contempt proceedings. Lawmakers from both parties have, at different times, faced criticism or legal action related to those matters. Some members of Congress argued that additional testimony could help clarify unanswered questions related to past investigations. Others warned that the hearings risked becoming politically motivated. The debate also brought attention to earlier legal cases involving government officials, campaign advisors, and intelligence figures who had faced investigations during the Trump administration. Supporters of those individuals argued they were treated unfairly, while critics maintained that law enforcement had acted appropriately. As a result, the political division surrounding these issues remained intense. For many observers, the controversies involving Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, and the investigations that followed represent one of the most turbulent periods in modern American political history. Whether viewed through the lens of political rivalry, legal debate, or institutional accountability, these events continue to shape discussions about power, transparency, and the rule of law in the United States. Thank you for watching this episode of Forgotten History. If you found the discussion interesting, consider liking the video, sharing it with others, and subscribing to the channel for more historical analysis and political history content. If you would like to support the continued production of these episodes, you could also consider becoming a channel member or supporting the project through the creator's Patreon page.